North Korean leader Kim Jong-un says his regime is close to test launching an intercontinental ballistic missile. Experts say the communist regime is years away from creating an ICBM with a nuclear warhead that can reach the U.S., but Kim referred to North Korea as a nuclear and military power that could fend off a formidable foe. The country has been under UN sanctions since 2006 over its nuclear and ballistic tests. Sanctions were tightened last month after they conducted a fifth illegal test.
The United Nations says that nearly 7,000 Iraqi civilians have lost their lives in violence over the last year. The UN Assistance Mission for Iraq also announced that more than 12,000 civilians were wounded in 2016. According to the mission, the figures have to be considered as the absolute minimum. South Korea defends the deployment of a U.S. missile system on its soil, rejecting China's criticism that it could escalate tensions on the Korean peninsula. Seoul says the planned deployment is, quote, a matter of national security aimed at protecting the country against nuclear and missile threats from the north. The capital of Indonesia has been the scene of rival rallies in support of and against Jakarta's governor, who's accused of blasphemy. Police forces kept the two groups separated to avoid any clashes, but Suki Jahaja Purnama attended his fourth hearing for comments in which he insulted the Holy Quran. Demonstrators have taken to the streets in the city of Pasadena in California to protest against a controversial oil pipeline project in North Dakota. Similar protests have been held in several cities across the U.S. The protesters say the construction of the project will pollute water and damage the environment.
In Turkey, American pastor Andrew Brunson sits in prison, facing trumped-up charges of terrorism. He's a Christian who lives and preaches in Turkey, and experts say that's enough to put him at risk.
So today, I would argue that Turkey, particularly Turkey's Christians and Jews, are going through a very difficult period.
Dr. Aykan Ademir is a Muslim Turk who's dedicated his career to helping Christians, Jews, and other religious minorities gain full religious freedom in his country. It was his core mission as a member of Turkey's parliament, but he faced roadblocks. Now he advocates from Washington, D.C., working with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies.
We don't know where the Trump administration will place North Korean nukes on its list of priorities, but one thing is for sure, that in 7 or 8 years, North Korea has made leaps and bounds in terms of its nuclear capability, and I'm talking about nuclear weapons. What is most troubling for the United States is that North Korea is working on long-range intercontinental ballistic missiles that would be able to reach the United States, and that would, once there's a miniaturized warhead, be able to carry a nuclear payload as far as the United States. This is an existential problem for the United States, unlike any other that exists in the world today.
And now to a Fox Business alert. Customs computers back online after a nationwide outage sparked mayhem. Long lines, delays, and cancellations at airports all across the country.
Yeah, Cheryl Casoni from our sister network Fox Business here now with details on this. Good morning, Cheryl.
Yeah, good morning, guys. And that's right. This all happened on one of the busiest travel days of the year. Thousands of international travelers stuck Monday night after a computer outage left thousands lined up behind customs desks and screening stations. Listen.
We found long lines, I mean ginormously long lines, and they weren't letting the kids, families with kids go through.
Longer than our actual flight, about over 2 hours in line once we got here.
The United States has admitted to killing of at least 188 civilians in airstrikes on Daesh militants in Iraq and Syria since 2014. In its monthly assessment of civilian casualties, the U.S. military said it is studying 6 reports on unintentional deaths in 2016 and 2015. The so-called U.S.-led coalition has also said it received 16 new reports of possible civilian deaths in November 2016. Other monitoring groups have put the number of civilian casualties at around 2,100. U.S. military officials have expressed regret over the deaths and said civilian casualties are unavoidable in some incidents. The U.S. and its allies conducted a total of over 17,000 airstrikes in Iraq and Syria until December the 30th, 2016.
Officials say 4 children died from gas poisoning believed to have been caused by a pesticide sprayed under their Amarillo home. And according to CBS News, Amarillo Fire Department officials say other people who were in the home are not out of the woods yet. Officials have not released any identifying information, including the children's ages. Toxic phosphine gas is produced when aluminum phosphide is mixed with water or moisture. Fire officials say a chemical reaction occurred when one person tried to wash off a pesticide that had been sprayed under the house, which triggered the release of the poisonous gas. They added the pesticide had clearly been obtained from an unlicensed dealer.
Foreign-backed militants have attacked electricity towers near the Syrian capital Damascus, causing blackouts. Local media said the terrorists from the al-Nusra Front were behind the attack. The power cuts have been reported in Quneitra region. The al-Nusra Front is known as an affiliate of al-Qaeda terrorist organization. The group, along with Daesh, has been excluded from the current ceasefire in Syria, which has been brokered by Russia and Turkey. Reports coming out of Syria say the truce is largely holding. Mohammed Ali is our correspondent joining us from Damascus. Mohammed Ali, so we have the case about these electricity towers being attacked, and of course about the truce. So 2 issues you need to cover for us if you can, please.
Yes, first of all, regarding the ceasefire deal, it seems to be still holding despite some violations by various militant groups on the ground across the country since it started last Friday, but up to this moment it seems to be still holding at a large extent. Regarding the other attack by the al-Nusra Front, which is known as Fatah al-Sham now, this group is not included, of course, in the ceasefire deal. It continues to attack the Syrian army posts and government institutions, and also the Syrian army continues its fight against the al-Nusra and ISIL. The latest was that the al-Nusra Front attacked electricity towers in Al-Khazrajiyya area at the southwestern outskirts of the city of Damascus, and this attack led to an entire and a full electricity cut in Al-Quneitra city south of Syria. Now what we know is that according to the Syrian government, the terrorists of the al-Nusra Front set explosives over there in those 3 electricity towers and detonated them. This led to this electricity cut in Al-Quneitra. This is not the first attack that happens against the electricity sector. Just last month, the terrorists also attacked an electricity station in Sa'sa, causing a similar cut in Al-Quneitra. It seems that terrorists continue to target electricity sector and also the water sector, and anything that actually causes suffering to the civilians living in the government-held areas across the country.
ISIS claimed responsibility for the New Year's Eve massacre at an Istanbul nightclub. Turkish police have rounded up a dozen people in connection with the shootings, but the gunman himself is still at large. Kim Mo-kyun has this report.
In a statement released through its Amaq news agency on Monday, the Islamic State group said the attack was carried out by a heroic soldier of the caliphate. It said the attacker was following the orders of the group's leader. At a cabinet meeting in Ankara, Turkey's deputy prime minister said the authorities are getting closer to identifying the suspect.
Information about the fingerprints and basic appearance of the terrorist have been found. In the process after this, work to identify him swiftly will be carried out. We hope that we will find not only the terrorist, but also his connections and those who gave him support inside and outside the nightclub.
He also stated that the Turkish government is cracking down on provocative social media accounts, adding that people posting pro-terrorism messages will face the full force of the law. A massive manhunt is still underway, and police are looking into whether the killer belongs to the same cell that attacked Istanbul's airport in June last year. Turkish authorities have released several pictures of the suspect and said they have made 12 arrests so far. Local media reports say the suspect may have been from Uzbekistan or Kyrgyzstan. The nightclub massacre marks the 19th major terror attack on Turkey since 2015. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Israeli police have questioned Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over corruption allegations. Authorities have not revealed any details about the nature of the investigation, but Israeli media say Netanyahu is facing charges of receiving expensive gifts and favors from Israel and foreign businessmen. Reports say that the Israeli Prime Minister also faces a second criminal inquiry next week. Netanyahu's family lawyer was earlier accused of facilitating a $1.5 billion submarine deal with Germany by getting, quote, inappropriate gifts. Netanyahu himself has also admitted to receiving money from a French billionaire who has been sentenced to 8 years in prison over a nearly 300 million euro scam.
A large fire has burnt at least 100 homes in Chile's coastal city of Valparaiso, prompting the evacuation of around 400 people. The fire sent plumes of smoke high in the air from a neighborhood high in one of the city's hills. The Chilean Interior Minister said 19 people had been slightly injured. Power was initially cut to about 47,000 people in the region, but has since been restored to most. Dozens of fire brigades from Valparaiso and neighbouring municipalities were deployed to fight the blaze. Investigators are now trying to determine the cause of the fire. Authorities said gusty winds and high temperatures had fueled the spreading of the blaze. A drought in central Chile caused a record number of forest fires in the area last year. The fires wreaked havoc on the key forestry industry and forced evacuations in recent weeks in the region.
We've got some extreme weather. Look at the TV. At least 5 people are dead as tornadoes, wind, and rain left a trail of destruction throughout the South in the new year.
Wow, and in southern Alabama, a tornado toppling trees onto a mobile home, slicing it in half, killing 4 people inside that home.
Wow. And in Mississippi, trees ripped from their roots and parts of homes scattered in yards after a possible tornado.
And those twisters are only part of it. Heavy rains also causing a mess on the roads, even stranding unsuspecting drivers on highways in portions of Georgia and Alabama, particularly along the state line.
Oh, that's scary. Senior meteorologist Janice Dean is tracking what is ahead. Janice, it could get even worse, as you're saying.
Well, the worst of it is really over, although we are seeing the potential for heavy rain across the southeast. But we had reports of over a dozen tornadoes, reports of 150 wind reports of damage across the south and the southeast. And this system is moving towards the mid-Atlantic and the northeast, so delays in the airports. I just got a report that Chicago O'Hare, a ground stop there, and that's going to be really problematic throughout the day today as the system lifts northward. We could see an icy mix across northern New England, as well as some snow, and the potential for more wintry weather is on the way with our next storm system. So look at the next 7 days. We could actually see snow across the south.
And now to Brazil, where a prison riot has claimed the lives of at least 60 people.
Tudo indica que essa ação foi planejada muito.
Everything indicates that the acts were planned over a long period of time. The inmates had established with the administration of the prison a promise that everything would run smoothly and there wouldn't be any problems during the holidays. They didn't keep their promise.
The incident happened in the jungle city of Manaus in the northwestern state of Amazonas. Security officials say the number of deaths may rise. The riot broke out when 2 rival drug gangs began fighting. The office of the Amazonas governor has announced that an unknown number of inmates have managed to escape the jail. Similar incidents happened in Brazilian prisons in October of last year. Brazil has the 4th largest prison population in the world, with over 550,000 people behind bars.
Syrian rebel groups have announced that they are freezing peace negotiations with the government. The rebels said that the suspension of participation in the peace talks in Astana, Kazakhstan, is due to the government's many violations of a ceasefire. The Syrian government has refused to acknowledge the alleged violations, arguing that conflict against Nusra Front and the Islamic State group does not come under the terms of the ceasefire.
A judge has ruled that Dylan Roof is competent to represent himself after being found guilty in the slayings of 9 black parishioners at a South Carolina church. Now the same jury will return to court to begin contemplating his punishment. While prosecutors plan to call up to 38 people related to the 9 people killed and 3 who survived the June 2015 slaughter during Bible study at Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, Roof said last week he plans on calling no witnesses and presenting no evidence. Roof was found guilty last month on 33 federal charges, including hate crimes and obstruction of the practice of religion. A jury took less than 3 hours to return its verdict, and a judge dismissed the jury over a break for the holidays.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump expresses his frustration with North Korea's nuclear program and China's lack of cooperation in reining in Pyongyang via Twitter. His words drew contrasting reactions from Seoul and Beijing. Kwon So-hwa looks into the immediate responses to the former reality show star's unfiltered and uncensored comments.
South Korea's foreign ministry put significance on U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's message posted on Twitter Monday local time, referring to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's statement on the regime's missile and nuclear weapons development.
Trump's message is meaningful as it not only is his first explicit mention on North Korea's nuclear issue since being elected as president, but also can be translated into a clear warning against Kim Jong-un's indication in his New Year's speech of a possible intercontinental ballistic missile test launch.
In a separate tweet, Trump slammed China, saying it has been, quote, taking out massive amounts of money and wealth from the U.S. in totally one-sided trade, but won't help with North Korea. The remark indicates the to-be president is not at all afraid of angering Beijing and complies with a call by a U.S. senator on the Trump administration to not be afraid to anger China by making use of so-called secondary sanctions.
I want to emphasize that Eastern Turkestan terrorists, especially those from the East Turkestan Islamic movement, have been penetrating into Central Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. They pose a serious security threat to many countries and regions around the world, including China. China resolutely opposes terrorism in any forms, and is willing to strengthen coordination and cooperation with Turkey, as well as the international community, to jointly prevent and cope with terrorism threats, while safeguarding regional and world peace and security.
Welcome back. Doubling down, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange insists that Russia had zero involvement in the emails leaked during the election.
In an exclusive interview with Sean Hannity, Assange says the Obama administration is trying to delegitimize the Trump presidency.
Kelly Wright live for us from D.C. with the interview that you will not see anywhere else. Good morning, Kelly.
Heather and Clayton, good morning to you as well. Julian Assange, a controversial founder and editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks, claims the Obama administration is trying to delegitimize the election of Donald Trump. In an exclusive interview inside the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where Assange is staying, he tells Fox News' Sean Hannity that Russia is not the source for hacking the emails of the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta.
You did not get this information about the DNC, John Podesta's emails. Can you tell the American people 1,000% you did not get it from Russia or anybody associated with Russia?
We can say, we have said repeatedly over the last 2 months that our source is not the Russian government and it is not a state party.
In Chicago last year, there were 762 murders, making it the most violent year in 2 decades. Donald Trump has pressured Mayor Rahm Emanuel to ask for federal assistance to put an end to the issues plaguing the city. Experts think that after a year plagued with controversial police shootings, that cops in Chicago may be holding back. It may not be what the criminals are doing, but what the cops aren't doing. The city plans on hiring 1,000 police officers this year, as well as issuing body cams for all officers on duty, but that may not be enough until drastic changes are put in place.